Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for Thursday, the 14th of January, 2021. Well, big day yesterday, huh? I did a three-card reading on the blog when they were reading the impeachment articles. And I drew and I wrote it up. I think I called it A New Journey or something. Starts with the Six of Swords. I used the Morgan Greer deck on this one. Six of Swords, then the Queen of Cups, and then the Nine of Swords. Basically, showing that we're heading off in a new direction. Sometimes you could talk about this new direction because it's swords. I interpret it as being new perceptions are forming and developing, a new understanding maybe of something. Out of the night into the day kind of thing, because if you look at this one in the Rider-Waite, it shows more of a winter scene, but you can tell up here that it's winter. So it's that passage, at Yule where you've got the shortest or the longest daylight and the shortest day, and now we're increasing right in daylight. So it kind of has that feel to it as well. The Queen of Swords meaning compassion and empathy, looking back over everything that's happened. And then the inability to let go of perceptions that don't serve. So that's kind of the basis for the reading. So if you want to check that out over at the blog at imsteppingaside.com, feel free to do that. Now, I kept last Monday's reading here. We had, the rune was Thurazaz, which is breakthrough, if you want to call it breakthrough. Missio was the geomancy rune, which is loss. And we had, so breakthrough, loss, feelings of loss or some kind of loss, the loss of something that you wanted that didn't happen maybe. The Three of Swords was, and the Tower and the Ten of Pentacles were the cards, and so we interpreted that as betrayal with a reset by the Tower, and then an eye toward our legacy. What's that going to look like with the 10? Now, I don't think I mentioned, I started with the 3 and the 10, or was it the 3 and the Tower? I'm not sure. But anyway, I had a preliminary numerology, but I don't think I said that the overall one was 11, which was, I think, the day of the reading, wasn't it? Maybe? Yeah. Yeah, it was also the day of the reading, so there was synchronicity there. But awakening and illumination, was really the overall awakening after betrayal. So with all of that in mind, I said that what I'm wanting to do is to kind of combine the Monday and Thursday readings together and to kind of see if we are making progress. If it's something like that we decided on Monday that something needed to make some progress, we'll see what it looks like on Thursday, or if it's just going to reinforce it, or if it takes a totally different turn. So anyway, I want to start doing that with the weekly readings, sort of. So let's do that. So let's keep that in mind about the betrayal, reset, and an eye toward legacy, awakening, breaking through loss, breaking through to the truth. So keep that as a backdrop. Hagalaz is the rune for today, the witch rune. It's a Norn rune. It indicates the past. It's destruction within a fixed framework. So it's kind of what witches do when we cast spells. We're basically trying to alter or influence something within a desired framework. We want a specific outcome to happen. In other words, if there's conflict, maybe we try to awaken somebody within that spell to the conflict or the reality of it so that they can then take a different course, right? Influence the situation that way. But again, it's within a desired outcome, and there's your fixed framework. And I think the desired outcome for what's going on collectively is peace and progress and the upliftment of society, not the breaking down of such. Okay. So let's go ahead. We've got this. Let's go ahead and do the geomancy rune and see what it is, if I don't throw them all away. There we go. You never know what's on my floor. It's sort of covered in herbs. I don't sweep it that often because there's just so much garbage around here, so much stuff on the floor. It's hard to do it. But it's like, okay, because there's some potpourri. There's like some rose petals right there, and it's like, is that it? No. So anyway, such is the life in my still room. Oh, well, we've got Puella for today. So some little girl energy. Is this it or is this poor? No, that's poor. Let's find Puella so I can show you what that is. Well, it's this. I'll just show it to you on the, this is poor, so it's actually like that. It's its complement. But here you're talking about positive energy that's fortunate, not too fortunate. Let's see, that is, let's see. Oh, why don't I? Oh, there it is. That is it's little girl energy. Think of just scattered, running around, having a good time, being excited, being curious, looking at everything. It's that kind of unstable energy. So it's nothing bad. It's just and when I pull it, especially when we're talking about perceptions that don't go anywhere, that stay stuck, it allows for the loosening of that. So in terms of Hagalaz, we could say, well, Puella is going to loosen and the hold on whatever it is Hagalaz is trying to achieve here, so that can then work. Okay, it loosens up the energy. So if communications are stuck between you and someone, Puella might loosen that energy enough that you can have the conversation you need to have. So the geomancy runes are interesting that way. Sometimes you can just read them on the level of increase or decrease. So or how shaky something is, and Puella and Poor I view as more shaky influences than necessarily bad influences. Now for Poor, the adult version of that would be Rubius, and so there you are getting into misuse of power there, but not with the little boy energy of Poor. So you can see that kind of transition there. But let's go ahead and shuffle a little bit here and see what the cards are for today, and see if we get a little more information on the betrayal and the outcome of that. Obviously, the outcome of the betrayal was the impeachment yesterday. And it looks like they will likely have, according to some of the reports, an interview with Mitch McConnell. It looks like they'll probably, when they finally do this, which may not happen in the Senate till after the inauguration, and that's fine. It can happen then. They can convict him after he's gone. It's perfectly within the Constitution to do that, and so they'll do it that way probably, and that way they remove, and then they'll vote to remove any post-presidential perks from him. They'll also or maybe that happens with the conviction, but they'll take another vote after that to strip him of the ability to ever run again for office. So you can't incite an insurrection against the country and then expect nothing to happen. I realize that there are Republicans who want that, but be on the record about why you're afraid. Were you threatened? Is that what's going on? Because I just can't believe that they would want to violate their oaths of office this way, by taking that attitude and doing what they did at the vote, and to not certify Biden and Harris as the next administration. That's outrageous. They violated their oath of office by doing that. You do know that, right? I mean, you do know that. So what happens to these folks in the near future, especially if they were involved at all in the planning of what happened on the 6th. If they did anything at all, oh boy. We got something like that going on in Oregon right now. One of the lawmakers, one of the state guys, that he let some guys in, and then rapidly walked around to another door and came back in the Capitol. One report said he apologized, another report said he didn't, and I guess he's been stripped of all responsibilities, all of his duties there, whatever committees he's on. He's been stripped of everything. And I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if they're going to fine him or they're going to try to expel him. I don't know if they can do it or if their local area has to do it. I don't know. I don't know how we handle that here in Oregon. It's different. Some states, I think Colorado can recall theirs, but not every state, from Congress, but not every state can do that. So I don't know. But in any event, I think I've shuffled enough. So let's go ahead and take our first 3 cards. I'm going to take the 13th one each time for randomness sake. If you've not been here before, that's just my process for this. Normal readings, I don't. I just lay them out, you know. But I just want everything. I don't want my shuffling to influence anything. So anyway, that's why I do what I do. I do it that way. In 13, I was born on the 13th, and things happen to me in 13s. I don't know why, but anyway, that's why I do it. That's why that number and not 3 or 10 or 5 or whatever. So that's the reason for the 13, okay? So we have the 10 of Cups. Happiness and fulfillment. Also, new beginnings. 10 reduces to 1. 10 is kind of a wholeness and completion, but so's the 1. So I don't, unless it's a master number, I always reduce. I know that some people say, oh, you got to look at the 12, you know, on its own. And sure, you know, you can look at it that way. But you're still dealing with a 3 energy ultimately. In my opinion, anyway. Not a numerologist. But I study it and I work with it and I use it and all of that. So that's just my understanding of it. So. And some of this stuff I look at from the standpoint of witch correspondences, magical correspondences. So, you know, it might be a little bit different than what a professional numerologist would do. Just in the same way with astrology, it might be a little bit different than what a professional astrologer might say, you know, because I'm going to look at it from the standpoint of casting a spell. So anyway, we have the moon. 18th card of the major arcana, 9 energy. So 9 and 1 is 10. Again, we've got a 1 energy, so new beginnings. The moon is about deception, though. And basically what we're looking at there, dreams, emotions, but it could be illusion, it can be change, it can be deception, cycles. You know, so maybe we could say we're in a cycle right now, which is, but you're really doing this, you know, it's not a nice, long, easy cycle. Think violent mood swings. That's how it feels. Well, we have the 2 of Swords. Typically, this means a decision. So, okay, so that gives us a 3 energy for the reading. 2 and 1 is 3. But individually, you know, we've got 1 with the new beginnings. We've got the 9, which is, the 9 is endings. So I wonder if maybe... Let's move the cards around, because you can do that, by the way. I mean, you got to make your reading work for you here. So I think the story, basically you're telling a story with a reading, all right? And that's really what you're doing. This happened, and this happened, and this happened, and on, right? Depending on how big your reading is. And sometimes the spread that you use has definitions for each spot, and so you're going to read them according to those definitions. But even within that, if things just don't make sense, sometimes it's that you have to just move the cards around so that they do. Anyhow, so let's put the moon first. I think because it feels like we need to have the 10 at the end. This needs to be the outcome here. And we need to have a decision that's made based on the deception and illusion that's been happening in order that we can achieve some level of happiness and fulfillment. Now, we have some scattered Puella energy. We have the rune Hagalaz as well to figure into this. So if you were to look at either the impeachment, for example, as a decision that was made, a choice was made based on the chaos, they made the decision to do that, and now we have the chance for a better life. Okay, he was always leaving anyway, but there has to be a statement made that says we don't allow this sort of thing from our leaders. And wherever the insurrection, whoever was involved in that, whatever consequences they face, they must face them. Because you cannot allow, and this has been shown time and again in countries where dictators end up being there, and you have coups and you have all this stuff that happens. Well, it's all based on one person or one group wanting to have power over the rest of them. Well, that isn't the way you run things. If in a democratic situation, those people are voted in because they've got the better ideas, that's one thing. But if they're not, they can't overtake the government. Right? That's not how that works. Now, if you want to extrapolate that down into our personal lives, you may have a neighbor situation where one wants to trespass, right? You could have that. Or you could have a situation at work where you put in all the time and you have all the effort, and all of a sudden someone else is telling the boss about it. And making it sound like they're the ones that did it, right? It's that type of dynamic that what I think that we're talking about here. Especially when you talk about the moon. You know, it's been emotional. It can also be a rebirth of sorts, you know. So in that regard, you could even put the two first and then have her, if you want to look at this as rebirth, a new path is forming, right? But let's just go ahead and start with the moon. So again, it's a 9 energy. So endings, completion, humanitarianism. With the 9 here that we were talking about now, it's they've gone as far as they can go with this, right? But here you have the moon looking down on 2 barking dogs. You have one that's brown, one that's kind of yellowish. You see a pathway in between them. You see a lobster coming up out of a pond. And you've got the 2 towers there. Familiar theme in tarot, by the way, where, you know, you've got decisions, you've got balance, right? You've got a gateway. Here you can either see them as coming out of and whenever you see a lobster, you're talking about rebirth or regeneration. That's where you get the rebirth on the moon, because the lobster sheds its skin, so it regenerates, right? It regenerates itself. Snakes do the same thing. But you see the windy path up between the mountain, and you can see the split there in the mountain. And so that mirrors the 2 towers as well. So you're really seeing an emphasis on the either or aspect of something and choosing the middle path, basically. Choosing not necessarily the liberal or the ultra conservative or the far left or the far right, but the center. A little more balanced, pragmatic approach, possibly. Or at least the polarity and balance. So where you don't have too much receptive presence and too much projective presence. You have some kind of balance there. But you can see the path is windy, so it's not exactly easy, is it? Lots of different twists and turns in it. But generally, when you're looking at the darker dog and the lighter dog, you're looking at the difference between, in my view, the shadow side of self and spirit. And trying to transmute ego in a way that makes it a little bit more sensible than just ego run amok, which is what we saw on the 6th at the Capitol. You could say that. If in the example of work, if this is in your career where this is happening, you know, you've got the imbalanced ego that decides to take credit for your work, maybe. Or in the case of the yesterday's reading, you know, or not yesterday's reading, but Monday's reading, you're looking at betrayal by somebody or a group of somebody's, right? So again, you know, we have a little bit of awakening that's going to happen here, some change. It can also mean intuition. But again, it's the letting go of the illusion that was in this card from the reading from yesterday on the blog. So from there, we start to understand that we need to bring things into balance, that things are out of balance, that illusion and deception is really at the heart of all of it. And so now we need to get some truth about things. And so to do that, we turn our back to emotion. And we start thinking about a new way, a new decision, a new way forward. We see the crescent moon in the maiden phase. So that's That's undeveloped potential. So this decision has some what that can be made here dispassionately because her back is turned to emotions. She's got her arms crossed in front of her, each hand holding a sword. And swords are the air element, and so that's intellect. This is more of a water card in emotions. But here, she's basically letting go of emotions. You see the line of demarcation here, which you don't really see it here. You do see it in this one though. Right there, it's a dark one. This shows the difference between this is here and this is what they're going to behind them, or in front of them rather, on the other side of that line. But here, she really wants to separate her intellect and her mind from her emotional state, which it's not really smooth yet, is it? You see the difficulties in the background depicted by the rocks that are coming out of the water. Excuse me. I'm still having issues with my throat. I need more tea. But she's sitting on just a stone bench right there. Her thoughts are pure. That's depicted by the white clothing, the white gown she's wearing, and the white blindfold. She's literally not being influenced by anything other than intellect at this point. Trying to bring everything into balance. It's almost reminiscent, really, almost depicts the energy of the scales like the 7 would do, where she's trying to bring everything to rest, everything to balance so that she can make the proper decision going forward. And when she does, whatever that decision has been, either if it's at work, you stand up and say, hey, wait a minute. That's mine. I did that. Please understand. You did tell them I'm the one that came up with all this, right? You did tell the boss that, right? And maybe you say it in front of the boss. It's like, oh, great. I thought you were going to wait for me so that I could tell him what I did. This is what I did. Or whatever. Or maybe the boss won't listen and you make the decision it's time to go. Time to find another job. Somewhere they'll actually appreciate you and not stab you in the back, right? But definitely deception leading to a decision that then gives you a better outcome. Mom and dad are there holding their hands up in happiness over the life that they're building over there on the little hill. Again, you see the line of demarcation. So something has happened, likely the result of the decision. And now they have some peace, some happiness, and some emotional fulfillment. The kids are dancing. It's like, look at what we've built together. And again, if you're looking at it in terms of the impeachment, look at what was nearly taken from us. You look at, I said this the last time, just the EPA rules alone that they took away to protect all of us. And I read that the former governor of Michigan, due to the Flint water crisis, he and some other people involved are going to be charged with that finally. It's still not fixed. Their water still isn't clean. Again, the betrayal alone that we talked about on Monday's reading really factors into this. You get people that decide that a certain group of people aren't worth it, that are less than. They don't see them as the other side of self. They see them as the other, and they see them as less than and not worthy, and therefore we don't have to do anything for them. We can harm them. It's okay. The current administration decided that with migrants on the border, separating children from their families. It's all okay. No, it isn't. And who we are began to dissolve throughout the last 4 years into what happened on the 6th of this month. It began the day the man was elected. And the betrayal began then, and it grew and grew and grew and grew to where he was doing quid pro quos, trying to get this and that so he could get dirt on his future opponent, who he didn't even know for sure was going to be it. And it continued and continued and continued and continued, and then when he lost, it continued some more, asking for more and more donations from his supporters. And they gave him. And he betrayed them every step of the way. And they don't know it yet. Well, some are figuring it out, but not all. But they need to. They need to understand what he's done to them. And they got to turn their back to their emotions. And they got to start looking at things in a balanced way, in a way that lets everything come to rest, to where you can look at it objectively and start really, really asking yourself, what was he really saying there? Because now you're going to have all these people that went there on the 6th, they're going to go to jail, right? They're already being arrested and arraigned and indicted and whatever, right? Whatever happens in that process, I don't know. But that's what's happening now. So, massive change is afoot. And we are going to have to make a decision about how we see it. We're going to have to take a look at what happened and look at it with complete discernment and objectivity, which I know is going to be very difficult for people. And even in your own personal life, if you expect to make use of the loosening energies of Puella and to transform things in a way that make more sense and bring things to balance instead of having everything be chaos, you've got to turn your back to that. You've got to turn your back to what's going on so you can think for yourself and not be influenced by anybody else, especially the one that's been trying to con you all this time, right? And again, whether it's a neighbor situation or one within your home, maybe you've got somebody in your home that's just causing all kinds of nonsense. Maybe they were in Washington, D.C. on the 6th. You got kids that are turning in their parents for it. Families that are turning in their family for it. Oh, I saw someone, that's my family, go get them. See, most Americans don't like the idea of people trying to violate the Constitution this way and incite a riot and commit sedition and commit insurrection. We don't like that, especially when 81 million people voted for the one that won. It's like, oh, they don't even want to see that. So, that's the dynamic that's working. So, and it's likely if it's happening at your job or it's happening in your personal life some way, that's still the dynamic that's working. So you've got to think about it that way. And you got to shut your mind off from all this other noise and keep your own counsel and figure this out. And if you've got to come to the awareness of what really happened. And from there, you can make a better decision that can then take you in a more emotionally fulfilling place. One that's happy, one that's unity, that expresses unity with others. The rainbow's there. We just have to reach for it and remember that it's there. It's almost like this is the state of spirit, where this is the state of ego. And you have to decide, what do you want? And then make your transformation both within and without, The time is right. We've got the Puella energy to loosen things up so that you can see things again. Let go of the hold that you've got on perception from yesterday's reading. I don't know. Something to think about. Anyway, I guess that's it. I think that we all have some decisions to make, and about whether it's about what's happening in the country or decisions in our personal life. If you're somebody that struggled with the notion of wearing a mask, drop it. Wear a mask. We got to get through this. We can't have the country, so many in the country every single day dying from this. We can't have this. And yet it seems to be what's going on. And you've got, now you've got Congress people that were in the rooms, or in the safe rooms together. One of them had her husband there. He's sick now. We have, what is she, 75 years old, cancer survivor. She's sick now. Someone else and another guy is sick. I haven't looked today to see if anyone else has come down with COVID, but they believe they got it there because there were people in the safe rooms. The Congress people would not put masks on, even when offered to them. They just thumb their nose at it. But if they're ill and they don't know it, they've just made everybody sick, potentially. So get over yourself and put a mask on. Don't even think twice about it. We need to get through this. We need to stop the virus. The only way we do that is if we don't give it to one another. The easiest way to do that is to have a mask on. Keep your distance. Pay attention to that. Wash your hands. All of that. And let's get through this. So that the vaccines that are trying to roll out, that aren't really, but there are some of them have. Some people have them. We want that to work for us, right? We only do that if we stop the virus in its tracks. Otherwise, more and more people are going to die from this, or have long-term health concerns. I can't even believe some of the things I'm seeing that people are having to go through. The long haulers. People that are healthy, they get this, they breeze right through it, and then all of a sudden, 2 months later, they're sick. They've got vascular issues, heart issues. What on earth is this thing? We'll eventually find out. We'll eventually have the whole picture of it. But still, some of this is still unfolding. So let's get through that and realize that this is not a decision. It's just a given. Wear a mask if you're around people. Doesn't matter if you're inside or out. Doesn't matter. This notion of, you can be outside without a mask, as long as you're 6 feet apart. That's nonsense. It's nonsense. If you have it, you breathe, you shed. You talk, you shed. There's a little wind, it's going to hit somebody. Maybe. Right? So put a mask on. If you're around other people, have a mask on. You go out of your house, put a mask on. Leave it on. Take it off when you get back home. I don't know. To me, it's simple. No brainer. Not a decision. It's a given. So this year, let's put this virus where it belongs, which is nowhere. All right? So that we can get through this and we don't have to deal with this anymore. I want to see my grandchildren. I've never held my youngest grandchild. Never seen him in person. And I'd like to. So, help me do that. Anyway, I know I'm not the only one, all right? I know I'm not the only one that's experiencing this. Grandchildren are born and we can't see them, just in video and pictures and whatnot. Because we can't take the chance. We would never take the chance, right? So, let's work on this together and come out in a better spot. We'll see you on Sunday when we do Esoteric Influences, and again on Monday for this. Again, when we meet together for Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune. But again, if you want to sign up for the newsletter, it has the Esoteric Influences and the weekly bind rune in it. That comes out on Sunday mornings. Nothing to buy, nothing. You just sign up there's a little newsletter sign up on the left side panel of the blog over at Stepping Aside. And if you want to do that, you can do that. If you just want to get it in your inbox, that way you can follow along. I don't always have it posted on the blog when I do the video, so sometimes I do it after I do the video. But if you want to follow along, you can have it in your inbox. But other than that, I guess that's it. We'll talk to you soon again on Sunday or Monday. Whichever one you watch. Hopefully you watch both. Anyway, I hope you click subscribe too. I'd love you to do that and come back and share this time with all of us. So anyhow, have a good day. Have a good weekend. Have the good rest of the week. And be good to yourself. Be good to one another. And blessed be.